This is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed human.
Body Bags with Joseph Scott Moore. I'm claustrophobic. I'll fully admit that. I truly am. That's one of the reasons I had no desire. I had a couple of buddies that joined the Navy. I had one buddy that actually was a submariner, a nuclear guy, and very bright off the scales. And he now works in the nuclear engineering industry. But there's something about being in the Navy, certainly being on a sub, where you're so confined. That's why I like the Army so much. I'm not saying I'm the bravest guy, but I always knew that I had some place to escape to on land. There ain't nowhere to run on a ship. And to be honest, it's not something that really ever attracts me, but there are thousands and thousands of people every year that board cruise ships out of various ports. And certainly those ports have become more varied now. Even my own hometown of New Orleans, there are several cruise lines that leave out of the dock that's immediately adjacent to the French Quarter. But predominantly we're talking Florida, right? And people go for a variety of reasons, but I think that what people really want to do is escape. To get out there, leave their cares behind, engorge themselves on lovely food, perhaps, have drink, sit by the pool, and just be left alone. Maybe I just stated my ideal vacation, I'm not sure, but there is one family right now that has questions. There's one family out there that wants to understand how in the world did their baby girl wind up at 18, deceased, on a cruise ship, perhaps wrapped in a blanket and found by a maid beneath a bed. Coming to you from the beautiful campus of Jacksonville State University, I'm Joseph Scott Morgan, and this is Body Bags. Dave, for anybody that follows me on my social media, a lot of, and a lot of my photos, I love Instagram. I just love it. I guess it's part of it's the voyeur in me. But I love taking pictures, right? Most of my images on my Instagram are me and Kimmy Sue out on my pontoon boat cruising up and down the Coosa River in Northeast Alabama.
Right.
It's beautiful right now, by the way. You need to come join us sometime. The leaves right now are just absolutely gorgeous. And there's, kind of mountainous terrain. It's high hills, essentially. It's not like the Rockies or anything, but the trees are just screaming right now. So gorgeous. And you're there alone. You're not going to run into like another car driving up a mountain, with the leafers like they talk about up in New England. It's just gorgeous and it's peaceful. But that's really the only cruising. I gotta tell you something here. I've never revealed to you before.
Uh-oh.
I have never been on a cruise. I've never been on a cruise, been on a lot of boats and gone fishing a lot.
Right.
But I have never been on an ocean-going vessel to cruise. I've been out in blue water on a fishing boat, but never to cruise. There's just something about it that's very, very confining to me. I don't know if I could go and relax. You know what I'm saying?
I've been tempted with trips. Okay, doing it when you do radio, as long as I did. There's all kinds of promotions. And there's always opportunities to do things like that, to go on a cruise, and it's all paid for, which is awesome. I've never wanted to do it. And my reason is real simple. If I'm out on a boat and I don't feel well, I want to go home. I can't. I'm not in charge. I'm stuck with everybody else. And on top of that, there are some people that are crazy. And even if you're on a boat with 4,000 other people, number $39.99 is going to find me. And that crazy one's not going to leave me alone. So, I'm perfectly fine with never, ever going on a cruise ship. And just again, so that's why whenever there's a story about a cruise ship, I don't sit there and go, see, that's why I don't do it. I don't do it for my own personal psychotic reasons. I guess I'm a control freak. Everything about a cruise sounds fun to me. It sounds like it would be a great vacation. It's an affordable thing. Do whatever you want. If you like to party, you can party. You like to, whatever you want to do, you can do aboard a cruise ship. Now, granted, everything you do on a cruise ship, you can do on land without having to worry about somebody right next door to you having a fiesta while you're trying to have a siesta. At any rate, in this particular case, we have a young girl. And well, first of all, we got a convoluted story, Joe.
Yes, we do.
This story has changed. When we first got this, it was an 18-year-old high school senior cheerleader who is planning to join the Navy is on this cruise. There's no mention of family. There's no mention of anything. And we were looking at it because all of a sudden she dies on this boat alone, right? That's the original story. And it's not anything like that. And we're finding out things days into this. You're going, wait a minute. The family was with her? We've already done this story twice, and we just now know the family was with her. They're just admitting this? So, yeah, this story is bad. There's something really, really not good. And I don't mean that in a mean way. I mean it in the way that we're looking at a story. You've got an 18-year-old girl who's dead, who went on a cruise. She's a cheerleader in high school. This is the time of her life. You're kicking off adulthood. You're getting ready, and you die. And now we find out that her body, well, we started off with she's missing, you go missing on a cruise ship. That's happened before. We've had plenty of people. Yeah. I mean, Amy Bradley comes to mind because Netflix has a story on her right now. I encourage you to watch that too, by the way.
Yeah.
Amy Bradley very well could have been in a house of ill repute located right next door to Carlos and Charlie's on Aruba when Natalie Holloway was there.
Wow.
That's all part of that story too. Amy Bradley was on a cruise with her family and she disappeared. In this case, we actually have an 18-year-old who disappeared briefly, but they found her. And I want to back up into this, Joe, because she actually said she wasn't feeling well when they were at dinner, right?
Yeah, she did. And backing up even further, this cruise, now they're from Titusville.
Oh, yeah.
Titusville, Florida, which, by the way, on a little aside, one of my favorite restaurants anywhere in Florida is actually in Titusville. It's a place called Dixie Crossroads, and they serve rock shrimp. It's this amazing experience. If you ever get a chance to go down there and eat rock shrimp, it's really, I hope it's still in business. I might be endorsing something that no longer exists, but the restaurant was really good. That's what I know Titusville for, and been there several times over the years going to the east coast of Florida. But thinking about this, the family's from Titusville, and that's what it's like 3 hours by car from Titusville down to the Miami area, which is actually where this cruise departed from. And I think they left out of there, Dave, if I'm not mistaken, on November the 2nd, if memory serves me. So on November 2nd, they've already been at sea now for four days. I don't know how many sleeps that would be. 4 sleeps, maybe. Well,
you got to figure the Carnival Horizon leaves Miami on November 2nd. On November 6th, they dock in Cozumel, and Anna leaves dinner feeling unwell. Now, some of this is even changing, Joe. Some of the dates that we're hearing, but let's just stick with this plan for right now because we've got it etched in stone for the moment. The next morning, Anna does not join the family for breakfast. Now remember, at dinner, I don't feel good. The next morning, she doesn't show up for breakfast. And that they're like, well, we need to go check on her. Now, at 18, you're old enough to be in a room by yourself. I guess she was there by herself. I don't know if she was rooming with any of their family members that were on the trip. Have you heard about that yet? Or was she?
No, I haven't. And that's what's so convoluted. And going back to what you said earlier, Dave, I don't know if you recall this. We were on another show together. And on that show, we had mentioned, or it had been mentioned, that the grandparents were involved. Remember, that was an earlier iteration of this where they said that the grandparents were taking her on this trip.
Right.
This trip of a lifetime. It was like a celebratory event for her upcoming, graduation. She goes to a Christian school, so it's a private school, I guess. And I got scratching my head over this thing. It seems like a weird time of year to go on a cruise.
Right.
And, how do you get out of school to do this? She's a senior. Maybe she's finished up all of her core work that she has to do, and she's all set to graduate. But what I'm saying is, like you said, it's almost like a play where you don't have a cast list, and the players keep changing with every new article that comes out of a newspaper somewhere. So, and not everybody's been forthcoming about this. And I'll go ahead. The big reveal here is the fact that the feds are involved in this because this happened in international waters. And so it's not like you're locked into like a local constabulary where you might get more information. As you well know, and I know I'm preaching the choir to you, brother, the FBI is notoriously, they're like Stonehenge, they just kind of sit there, and you're not going to get anything out of them, period. And that can be rather frustrating, I know, for people, that are interested in the news of this case and whatnot, but that's kind of where we are. So now people are left, and the media's, and looking at you, media, the media is out there trying to piece this thing together and create their own narrative. What we do know, though, is that she was, in fact, in this room. And Dave, if I'm not mistaken, I believe that she was not found by family. She was found allegedly by a maid, I'm assuming, right?
And I did want to address that because you have the family we mentioned. She didn't feel well at dinner, and she retired from dinner and went to her room, and then did not come to breakfast in the morning.
Yeah.
They go to the room and look and don't see anything. And so we're scouring the ship now. It's a big ship. There's 4,000 people on this ship, if I'm not mistaken, roughly, give or take. I mean, it's a small city.
Yep.
Think about that.
It is. Yeah.
And when they start looking for her, you're going to tear apart the room, but not to the point of lifting anything up. You're going to look because you're not assuming anything sinister. She just maybe she's met a boy and they're talking, and, you're thinking innocent thoughts at that point. But it was a maid that comes by to clean the room, I guess. And that's when, looking under the mattresses and other things, her body was found under the mattress, under life preservers, covered. So she wasn't easy to see, even if you lifted the mattress up. But I got a feeling adding 100+ pound body to an area that's not supposed to have it is going to make it look different on the outside.
Oh, of course it would. And, I checked out, I went on and checked out some of these. This is Carnival Cruise Lines, by the way. Right. And as you mentioned, the ship's name is the Horizon. And I went and kind of did a little research about them. Unlike some of these other ships within the fleet that they have, the Horizon actually has life jackets inside of the room. Now, there's some of them that are out there where you have to go to, they have these stations that set up. And so what they'll tell you when you get on these things, in the event that there's some kind of, emergency, this area is going to go to this station and you will be given a life preserver at this time. In the room, though, on the Horizon, this thing comes equipped with life preservers. So if you're trying to conceal something or somebody, what are you going to do? Well, first off, you can wrap them in a blanket. And here's the thing. I really wonder, brother, if this was an inboard room or if this is a room with a balcony.
Oh, wow.
Because it would seem to me that if you're going to try to divest yourself of human remain and you can do it in a stealthy manner, dude, all you got to do, if you're in a balcony room, you merely walk to the balcony and you toss the body over. But in this case, someone decided to hold on to her. Brother Dave, there are very confusing facts. Well, let's don't say facts. Let's just say, what's a good word that we could use here? Opinions, maybe? I don't even know if they're opinions.
You know what? I thought about something, Joe, and I went back and I found some very quickly reports on how we got this information.
Okay.
Because here's what we reported early. Anna drives 3 hours from her home in Titusville to Miami Sunday morning to catch Carnival Horizon for her Caribbean cruise. The ship leaves port that afternoon, and guests spend a day on the open ocean before arriving in Jamaica. It's smooth sailing from Ocho Rios to the Grand Caymans and Cozumel. The Horizon is on its way back to Miami when tragedy strikes. The reason we all thought she was on this trip by herself is because that's what we were led to believe, Joe. She drove. If she was with her whole family, we wouldn't be saying she drove from her home to. She had been on a trip earlier. Her grandparents had given her a cruise as a present, and she enjoyed it so much that she wanted to go on another. So here we go. Early Saturday, the last day of the Horizon's voyage, a passenger is found dead. The cruise ship returns to port early, asking passengers to disembark from their rooms as quickly as possible. The FBI now investigating the death. Carnival says it's up to the FBI to release further details of their investigation, and their focus is on supporting the family of the guest, 18-year-old Anna Kepner. Now, that's a whole lot different than what we know now.
Yeah. Yeah, it truly is. And for me, this is the thing about it. Do you remember, God, how long has it been now? Was it a month ago or a little over a month ago? We covered Burning Man.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, wow.
And remember the nightmare with that? And by the way, for those that are interested, they still haven't solved that, which I didn't think that they would. And how many people do we have there? It was like 70,000. Wasn't that the number? And they said that was a low number because the thing is kind of trickling down, I think, popularity, but still 70,000. And one of the things that we came up with that is that you literally had people from all over the world that were present for Burning Man. And dude, they're in the wind at the end of this thing. Mm-hmm. Same thing with a cruise ship. Now, I mean, if you've got souls on board, you're going to have, because these cruise lines, you know, they want to send everybody out flyers and coupons and everything to bring them back, obviously. So you're going to have a manifest of the people that are on there. You can track them down. It's not like Burning Man necessarily. However, if you don't go right to the source at that moment from the investigative perspective and try to glean information while it's fresh on people's minds, or if there's somebody involved in her death, I'm not saying anybody is, I'm just saying if, okay, well, now they've had an opportunity to divest themselves of anything that might have evidentiary value because they're in the wind. And you've got the ship's people saying, okay, everybody off. I wonder when they disembarked, here's something right here. I wonder if when they disembarked, Dave, if they had spaces to catch these people in as they're leaving. And they're waiting on their luggage and they're holding them back saying, okay, we need to speak to you in general terms. How do you even, manpower wise, how do you even manage that? Right. So you've got 5,000 people exfilling from this boat. They're coming down the gangplanks, if you will. I've always wanted to use that word, not being a Navy person. They're coming down the gangplanks and you've got a couple of stations they're going to have to funnel through in order to collect their gear. Did they have anybody on the outside that could sit there, some investigators, maybe locals, I have no idea, that could say, okay, we've got to get statements. And how do you go about getting statements from 5,000 people? Right. Not to mention, we're not even talking about the crew. Right. Because the crew's got to be massive as well. Oh, yeah. Are they included in this?
Everybody.
Yeah, everybody would, it's kind of like, Murder on the Orient Express. Right. Everybody's a suspect, essentially, until you can begin to whittle this thing down.
Well, the reports claimed that Anna's body was discovered under the bed around 11 a.m. The Miami-Dade Medical Examiner's Office lists her time of death as 11:17 a.m. Now, that oftentimes what we have discovered, or I have discovered in reporting these things, they use the time that they can say, well, this is the time we found the dead body. Until that, they were a missing person. So we're going to put this time down now, and then we'll, because that's all I could figure out, Joe. Why would they say 11:17?
I think you're on. Well, here's the thing about it. You have time of death and you have time pronouncement. Okay. So if they find her, this is the key. This is what we need to know. When did they actually put in, and when did they actually find her?
Okay.
Did they find her simultaneously with putting in? When did the thing actually dock?
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so was it at that point in time that somebody walked in and said,
yeah,
you're officially dead,
Right.
Or because, these ships have a physician on board, right?
Yeah.
All you got to do is watch Love Boat, right? So,
Doc.
Doc, you go there and the doctor is going to, pull out the stethoscope and declare death at that moment in time. Now, that would have been if it was out in international waters. I can't imagine. I mean, I've worked cases in New Orleans that came into port where I had, bodies on board ships. There were homicides I worked that occurred on ships. The coroner would take over. And back then it wasn't the FBI that was doing it. Lots of times I would work with a Coast Guard that was involved in the investigation as opposed to the FBI. So now you got the FBI involved in it. FBI cannot pronounce death. It's going to have to be Miami-Dade, but that's a very specific time, Dave. That time does not sound like, okay, you and I have talked about postmortem interval, right?
Right.
And even I have stated that we cannot narrow down time. What was the time again? Was it 11:17
a.m.? Yeah.
Dude, that sounds exactly like a time of pronouncement. Just think about any kind of medical procedural thing you've ever watched on television.
Right.
ER is the first thing that comes to mind. I think that might have been the last time I ever watched serious TV. But, they would say, okay, I'm going to call it at such and such. Well, 11:17 is very, very specific.
Yep.
So that's like a time of pronouncement. That's not important to me. As a forensic scientist, I'm not interested in your time of pronouncement. I'm interested in the time of death.
Right.
And how are you going to narrow that down? The problem is that and I'm not please don't get me wrong. I am not hammering away at the people that handle security on these boats, but they are not investigators, brother.
No,
that's not what they do. Okay. They're there to keep the peace. All right. You don't want fights breaking out on the Carnival cruise line. All right. So you've got people, most of these people are employed from other countries. Maybe some of them do. The lion's share of them, I cannot. Maybe they understand something about scene security, where we'll lock things down and not give anybody else access to it. And all this stuff, I'm kind of sitting here vomiting all this on you, but it's running through my mind right now as I'm trying to think, what would I want to do if I were trying to work this case myself? And it was so dynamic because you've got this little herd of people that are exiting a death scene. And I think folks would say, well, the death scene is actually her cabin.
Maybe.
I beg to differ. We don't know where she died on the ship. All we know is that she was hidden.
Yeah.
And that sounds like being hidden. That doesn't sound like I'm going to go under the bed, put a blanket over me and cover myself with a life jacket and die.
I feel so horrible. My stomach cramps are killing me. I'm going to lay under here. I'm going to get under the bed. Now, you know what, Joe? Celeste Rivas, we've covered this story. You and I have done it on several shows, and yet her body was discovered on September the 8th.
Yeah.
Inside the Tesla. And technically her birthday was September 7th. So she turned 15 years old.
Right.
So she's reported as a 15-year-old girl dead. But we know for a fact that she was already decomposed greatly by the time her body was found. So even now, there are still reporters that say, the 15-year-old, because the day that they discovered her body was September the 8th. They don't know when she died. They're trying to figure that out.
Correct.
So I'm wondering if it's something similar with this.
I think that the possibility exists. And so when the evidence response team from the FBI shows up, okay, which I would assume, because I saw images and they actually wear, if any of our friends out there are listening right now and you ever see, like, if you look at the back of these shirts that they wear and their jackets, we used to call them raid jackets, the thin shell jackets, it will say FBI and then below it will say ERT. That actually means evidence response team. And these people are specifically trained to work crime scenes. All right. And so any major field office like Miami-Dade is a massive field office. They have an indwelling lab, full staff of FBI agents. And the ERT people are agents as well, but they're just specialized in forensics. I could have sworn, Dave, that in the still images that I saw from where this thing is moored at, you saw these people getting onto the boat and they were wearing those shirts. So they dispatched a bunch of people to the scene.
Right.
I'm wondering what kind of information they had. And we're getting kind of it's not really in the weeds. We're in our sweet spot and from what this podcast is about is forensics. I wonder what information they'd been briefed on before they arrived that they were going to bring out this level of manpower.
Oh, wow.
They responded like this to a ship that's got a dead 18-year-old that's been found wrapped in a blanket and covered in life jackets.
Right.
So they come up with some kind of pre-knowledge. It wasn't like a couple of boys show up with their notepads and they're wearing the standard FBI, coat and tie. That's not what you got going on here. You got guys showing up dressed to come out and process a crime scene at this point in time. So they have data when they're going in. I just want to know who did the initial assessment of this at the scene to say they're radioing ahead or calling ahead or whatever they do on big ships saying, this is what we're faced with. This is what we need.
Okay. Now, interesting to point out, most people are not aware. But in this case, Carnival Cruise, the Carnival cruise ship Horizon, is actually flagged out of Panama, meaning that's the nation that covers this boat. It floats in international waters and it visits ports of call all over the place. But when you get right down to it, Joseph Scott Morgan, Panamanian law on the boat outside in international waters is the call. And you mentioned how stacked they were ready with the FBI. So they had to have been told a lot. Now, eyewitness reports after the body is found, the room was staked out, nobody in and out. The hallway blocked off from the moment the body was found. Nobody up or down this hallway except getting your crap and getting out. They blocked it off and kept it blocked off. This is from eyewitness reports of travelers that were on the scene. So it was secured as a crime scene where her body was found, at least from an eyewitness. Now, my question for you, how is it possible, Joseph Scott Morgan, that we start off by thinking this 18-year-old girl got a trip and was there by herself or with a friend, and we have the family, the cruise ship saying, well, we have to inform the family before we can release the name. And we know the family is right there. She's on the trip with them. Okay. I want to back up and tell you that the whole family was on the cruise ship with her. Well, not all the children, but she's on a cruise with her father and stepmother. He's recently remarried. And so her father and stepmother and other family members are on the trip. Two of the stepmom's children are on this trip. One of them is 16 years old.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of different stories being told, and it's frustrating to me because as I'm looking at all of this and I'm thinking, why are we hearing from Anna's family that we don't know any more than you do? Anna's father and stepmother don't know anything more than we know? What the heck?
Yeah.
She's dead under her bed, and we aren't even getting the truth for the first week, meaning the news report. We don't, they're not even saying, well, we were on the trip. They're not doing anything like that, Joe. It's like there's a cover up by the family going on, and I'm not accusing them of wrongdoing. I'm saying it seems like something is really not quite right. Oftentimes news stories get misreported. Bad reporting happens all the time, but you catch it and you correct it and you move forward. I went back and looked at the original reporting because I wanted to make sure. And we've got the family saying, well, we don't know any more than you do. Well, now we know where her body was. And what do we know about the condition of her body, Joe?
Yeah. Well, not a lot at this point. I think most of it is speculative at the very best. And, the big reveal is going to come from Miami-Dade. medical examiner, not law enforcement. Remember, Miami-Dade, the reason it's called that is that the city and the county are both consolidated. You don't have separate police force down there. Okay. You've got, Miami-Dade police. All right. Same thing happened in Nashville. All right. Like Metro, I think it's called Metro Davison now or whatever it is. It's named after the county. That's the Nashville PD. Well, the ME down there, and most of Florida is broken down. I think all of Florida, with the exception of Miami. I might be wrong. Somebody correct me on that. I'm sure you will. But just like Florida is broken down into ME regions, not Miami. Miami is so robust with the number of cases they have that it's a singular standalone agency. So they will have taken over this investigation from the medical legal perspective. The trick is who's going to be tasked with releasing information. Because if the feds are involved in it, if the feds are involved in this thing, which obviously they are they going to be the conduit for any further releases as far as specifics about the case? Now, sooner or later, if they're zeroing in, if there is something to be revealed that comes about from this autopsy, you have to believe that whoever that is not going to have to appear before a judge in Miami-Dade. Brother Dave, they're going to have to appear before a federal magistrate. It's not why. It's not how. It's not even really when. It's what? What exactly happened to this child? What happened to her? And as I'd mentioned, Dave, the answers will rest in the science. You and I, we always look to the science, don't we, on body bags? The science is going to be our true north, right? That compass that points us to the truth. If we stay with the science, we follow the science. What's real? What's false? Can be shed away, and just know that that's nothing but BS. Most of the time, science is going to point the way in any kind of case like this. And Dave, it's my opinion that in this case, forensics is going to rule the day, because there's going to be obvious signs here. It's either going to lie within toxicology findings, or was there something going on that's visible? Okay. Like, were there injuries to her? Because right now, definitively from the authorities, the people that really, really count, right? They ain't saying peep at this point, dude.
Well, let me ask you about this, Joe, because let's just play what we know.
Yeah.
Or no, what we think we know. How about that?
Okay. Yeah, gotcha.
We've been told that Anna at dinner said she didn't feel well, had her stomach thing going on. Now, she's 18 years old on a cruise. She's going to be more than just an upset tummy, to make her leave dinner and go back to her room while you're out on a cruise of a lifetime. So she did that, according to family. She left dinner and went to her room to lay down because she didn't feel well. She doesn't get up in the morning and go to breakfast. So that they thought, well, maybe she's still not feeling well. Let's go check on her. And that's when they find she's not in her room. So is it possible? Or no, is it likely? We've heard of plenty of people being slipped something, especially young women being slipped something in a drink that causes them to not feel well. And within a matter of minutes, be kind of out of sorts. And is it possible somebody did something to her drink or food that when she left, they followed her back to the room? And then something happened? Is that a possibility?
Yeah, I guess it could be. I mean, if we're talking about on a resort, okay, the first name that comes to mind is Natalie Holloway. Right. Because that scumbag that's now in prison, where's it, Peru? Is that where he's at? I know that we went and did the on-site in Birmingham when he was, he was brought in. That was an interesting day. We got to be there in front of the cameras for that. It was pretty wild. When he was brought back to America.
Like
Vandersloot, that was his name. Yeah.
Yeah. The fires of hell.
And he had admitted, I think it was something like GHB he was passing out to people.
Right.
And interesting aside, when I was over in Great Britain, there were these people at CrimeCon UK that were, and probably other people have these. I thought it was a pretty cool invention. They've got these covers for your cocktail glasses that you can insert a straw through the cover, and it's kind of rubberized. So someone cannot just arbitrarily walk up and drop something into your drink.
Wow.
I thought it was kind of cool, because it's a devilish world out there.
It is. Think about how sick things are that you actually have to come up with something to
do that.
And we would say that's a good idea. But
it is.
That. But now, I've had a friend that was at a resort with his wife who looked like she was in a bikini. She looked very young, and she goes to get a drink. She comes back and says, takes a sip. I don't feel good. And,
right.
Anyway, my buddy also takes a sip. He starts not feeling good within a matter of minutes. They got Mickey'd, right? And so what are we thinking with this? She leaves dinner not feeling well, goes back to her room. Where do you start investigating that?
Well, yeah. I mean, obviously, I'm going to be real blunt with you, brother. She's not been deceased for a long, long time. So at autopsy, when they're doing the examination, they're going to do blood draw, urine draw, bile, and vitreous, all four of them. Vitreous from the eye, bile from the gallbladder. We're going to get heart blood, probably directly from the aorta or the atrium. And we're going to draw urine directly from the bladder. Okay. And they're going to put on a full-on panel with this, I would imagine, as well, knowing that, I don't know how to say this, knowing that she's coming off of a cruise ship, I would imagine that they would be they might even do a more sensitive test looking for any kind of exotics that may have been, in her system, because, there are certain things that you don't normally look for. Do you remember, God, I lose track of time. Remember we were covering those cases. There was the couple out of Turkey, and then we had the ones that were over in Indonesia where the couple, remember the one couple that was given, they bought a bottle of lemon drop.
Yep, I do remember that now. Yep.
And it wasn't ethanol, it was methanol, man. And the girl called her mama in England and said, I can't see. Remember how horrible that was? God. And the boyfriend the boyfriend was found dead already. Yeah. And she was just hanging on. She eventually died. There's been several of those, but that's methanol. That's not like something you would put into a drink. That means that they're manufacturing an alcoholic beverage with methanol as opposed to ethanol, and methanol is not compatible with life. All right. Wow. So the reason I'm bringing that up is all this stuff has to be considered. Right. Okay. So when they're doing the tox panel on her, they're going to look for any kind of weird manifestation in the results. This has not happened long enough ago for that panel to have come back yet.
Okay.
I can almost, dollars to donuts, I can almost guarantee that. And the standard line, I'll go ahead and state it right here, we're probably looking at 6 weeks, unless they're trying to get this thing expedited. Or here's another thing that might happen, Dave. I didn't think about this. The FBI may have gotten those samples. They may have gotten those samples and sent them to Quantico.
Okay.
For an expedited testing on her, because this is something that occurred in international waters. Isn't that something to think about?
I know.
Because, that it might not be completely reliant upon Miami-Dade. Miami-Dade has their own cases, dude. They got a pretty robust caseload that comes through Miami-Dade.
And think about, Joe, if this happened in international waters, Miami-Dade, who has control over this? Yeah. I mean, they came to port here, but that's not where it happened, maybe. I mean, I'm guessing, I'm not a lawyer, don't even pretend to be one, but I have to wonder who's really in charge. The FBI has grabbed this and they are doing it like they're in charge. But I wonder, but hey, let's.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. And that's the thing about it, the timing here. And I don't know enough about what's referred to as admiralty law.
Right.
And I think that there's a portion, obviously, of admiralty law that goes to criminality, on the high seas.
Right.
Who's going to have jurisdiction over that? My suspicion is because having work cases that put into New Orleans, if there was a homicide that was perpetrated on a boat it was going to be up to the locals to handle that. In the past, maybe they're deferring to the feds. I might be talking out of school, but that's my thought here. You look at this and you think, and again, I ain't an attorney, have no desire to be one, by the way.
Gotcha.
I'm thinking, are there any kind of international laws that would apply here relative to if you're going to prosecute a homicide and who's going to wind up prosecuting? I think that if the FBI is tasked with working this case, they're going to be the ones that if there is an arrest affected in this case, they're going to be one putting the bracelets on whoever it is. We've got this beautiful 18-year-old young woman who has died on board a literal floating city surrounded by perhaps 5,000 people with her family. And right now, your guess is just as good as mine. We have no answers, but I guarantee you this. When we get those answers, Brother Dave and I are going to come right back at you, and we're going to fill you in and hopefully fill in all the blanks. I'm Joseph Scott Morgan, and this is Body Bags.
This is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed Human.